Coming up, Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation on the impact of the death of 3 American tourists on tourism in the Exumas. Minister Halkitis addresses concerns about the Bahamas Credit Bureau and the official opposition leader with a number of questions and demands for the government. Good evening, everyone. I'm Zenobia Williams with your JCN News for this Tuesday, May 10th. Thank you for joining us. There are concerns but cautious optimism on Exuma following the death of those 3 American tourists at the Sandals Emerald Bay Resort on the island Friday past. Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, Chester Cooper, when asked by reporters this morning ahead of the weekly cabinet meeting if there is concern that the isolated incident would impact the tourism product on the island, the acting PM says the people there are generally calm.
So far, there hasn't been any significant cancellations from bookings at Sandals, as I'm advised, and based on what we see overall in terms of queries from the international community, I believe they understand that this is an isolated situation contained to the 2 villas in question, contained to this resort, and they know that we have 16 island destinations within the Bahamas. So we are seeing very strong forward bookings. We're still anticipating that the summer months is going to be very strong, and we are pleased that we have built a resilient brand and an outstanding product.
Now on Monday, Police Commissioner Paul Roll, in giving an update on the investigations into the deaths of the 3 Americans, noted that samples have been taken from their bodies and sent to a forensic lab in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Toxicology results are expected within 7 days, he added. The Member of Parliament for Exuma says the government continues to be empathetic with the families impacted by this most unfortunate incident.
As I announced previously, I've spoken with the families personally. We have provided candid answers as much as we have, and we have been forthright with the families, and they appreciated the fact that they've been able to get the answers that we do have. The process continues. The investigation is continuing. We are thankful to the multi-ministry team that visited Exuma, led by Dr. Darwell. He's visiting Exuma again today to do some additional work along with a team. And when we have more information as it relates to the cause of death, we'll provide that for you. Yesterday, the Commissioner...
The 3 victims were officially identified by Commissioner Roll as husband and wife Michael and Robbie Phillips and Vincent Paul Chiarella. Mr. Chiarella's wife, Donice Chiarella, is the lone survivor of the incident and is currently in hospital in South Florida. Commissioner Roll noted that all of the victims' property were handed over to representatives of the U.S. Embassy here on New Providence. He added that the U.S. Embassy will also be making arrangements to have the bodies prepared for repatriation to families in the U.S. Meantime, United States Embassy Public Affairs Officer Daniel Durazo also addressing the media today on the deaths of the 3 Americans, with the U.S. Embassy in country being the entity to assist U.S. citizens who either reside in the Bahamas or come to the islands for vacation. Mr. Durazo explains the process of what occurs with the embassy when something of this nature occurs, noting that it depends a lot on the nature of the particular incident.
In general terms, we try our best to communicate as quickly as we can with the families. Depending on the family's wishes, we can or cannot reveal additional information to the public. And of course, we coordinate as closely as we can with the Bahamian authorities involved whether that be the RBPF or the Ministry of Health or whatever the case may be. And we monitor the investigation as closely as we can, and we provide the family especially with updates in as timely a fashion as we can. And I know that our unit of what's called the American Citizen Services Unit, or ACS, has been in close contact with all of the families since Friday, and we are keeping them updated to the best of our ability.
Now, while Mr. Durazo could not share details of whether the families of the victims have officially identified their remains or plans to do so, he says the embassy has been involved in the process and has informed the families as appropriate. Meantime, with the embassy advising its citizens to be cautious when traveling to the Bahamas, Mr. Durazo says this.
I'll take the opportunity here to encourage all U.S. citizens who come to the Bahamas, whether you live here or you travel here, to sign up for the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. That's STEP. And you can find that through our Facebook page or on our website, or you can simply look up STEP and U.S. Embassy on the internet, and you'll find a form that allows the U.S. Embassy to email you whenever there's security updates, etc. It is one of the highest priorities of the U.S. Department of State to protect U.S. citizens and to keep them safe while they're abroad, and that includes sharing information with them that can help them make informed travel decisions.
As it relates to deaths of those Americans, Mr. Durazo says the embassy has been working closely with Bahamian authorities since May 6th, monitoring the investigations into the deaths, and will continue to work closely with authorities as investigations continue. Minister of Economic Affairs Michael Halkidas addressed the press today on public concerns related to CRIF Information Services Bahamas, the global company based in Italy that has been licensed by the central bank as the credit bureau for the Bahamas. The primary concern being the access of individual credit information that will be collected and shared between credit and lending institutions, insurance companies, and microfinance businesses across the Bahamas, for the purpose of assessing an individual or company's credit worthiness for loans, mortgages, and other such uses. The minister, however, welcomes the organization and the anticipated benefits to the economic health of the country.
I remember serving in a previous administration and, working on the credit bureau. So it's a positive for the economy in that it provides information as to credit quality of borrowers and gives an idea of the health of the economy even. I understand, you have people who are concerned and maybe apprehensive about, credit scores and what it would mean for them in terms of borrowing money. But I think in the long term, it's good for the country and its economic health. By and large, I think all of the banks have agreed to sign on, and the idea is to have other lenders be able to sign on, so that over the years you build a database on the health of your borrowing public.
The minister gave the following admonishment to those still apprehensive about the access of their information and the function of the credit bureau.
Good lending policy and good rules in terms of maximum limits. That's actually good. An individual might feel that, okay, they should be able to, they can manage their money the way they want. But, when you have instances where, particularly in the public service, you have deductions at a level so that the remaining paycheck does not, pay the bills or allow for in some extreme cases, even basic necessities, that's not a good thing.
The minister further noted that although this is a new thing in the Bahamas, it is an ordinary thing in other parts of the world. Central Bank Governor John Roll, while addressing the Bahamas Business Outlook Conference in early 2021, noted that a Bahamian credit bureau has been a decade in the making. He said it would greatly assist lenders to understand a borrower's risk of non-payment, among other things. As mandated by the Credit Reporting Act, among those required to supply information to the Credit Bureau will be the commercial banks, insurance companies, credit unions, financial and corporate services providers, Bahamas Mortgage Corporation, and Bahamas Development Bank. Others likely to be added in the future are the utilities, auto dealers, and furniture stores that extend credit to customers, and even the government's revenue agencies. Official opposition leader Michael Pintard on Monday had a number of questions and demands for the government. After the Ministry of Finance revealed last week that government revenue is $210 million above forecast for the 2021-2022 fiscal year to date, and is expected to maintain that momentum through the end of June. Mr. Pintard questioned whether the government will be responsible with unexpected cash inflow.
The New Day government is bragging about the $210 million in revenue that it has collected ahead of schedule. The public, however, is concerned about the priorities of this government and whether or not the millions of dollars being collected will be properly utilized to meet the real demands and needs that Bahamians have.
Mr. Pintard then indirectly accused the government of victimization. He claims the government has failed to honor outstanding payments that are owed to a number of small contractors hired by the previous administration.
We are outraged that urban renewal workers are fired and yet they are not settled financially. That some of the contractors at beaches and parks still await final payment. That many small contractors throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas are awaiting badly needed checks, as these families are in pain because of rising food costs, gas costs, and soon electricity costs. Prime Minister, settle the bills for those Bahamians who are vulnerable and waiting on monies owed by the government.
And as hurricane season approaches, Mr. Pintard questioned how long people in need of housing repairs, especially in Abaco and Grand Bahama, have to wait to receive the help they so badly need.
In Abaco and Grand Bahama, as this hurricane season approaches, there are hundreds of Bahamians who for the last 7 months were waiting for the relief promised by the New Day government so that they are able to seal their homes from the many leaks they experience, and for others to have a chance at getting back into a home. Hundreds of residents have been approved for repairs or reconstruction. How much longer will you make them wait?
There has been no official response from the government to Mr. Pintard's questions and assertions coming from the statement. National Security Minister Wayne Munro finally addressing the controversy surrounding the prison work release or intramural program, following that brazen daytime shooting of a man on the intramural program at a Rubis gas station last week. As for the presumed suspension of the program, Munro says this.
The intramural scheme wasn't suspended. What occurred was an inmate who was serving, coming to the end of a sentence for homicide, manslaughter in fact, was murdered. And based on what the police told us, we thought to assess the safety of the other inmates who were on the program serving sentences for homicide. So the other inmates who were on the program for offenses other than homicide, their scheme continued.
Munro's statement comes just 1 week after Timothy Saunders, aka Timmy, was gunned down at the service station at which he was employed via the Bahamas Department of Corrections work release program. Saunders, who was at the time serving an 18-year sentence for manslaughter for his role in the 2011 killing of 3 persons, including a pregnant woman soon to give birth, was reportedly approached by a lone gunman and shot multiple times about the body. Now, although police have not said whether the shooting was retaliation or not, the National Security Minister says, as a precaution, they are now reviewing the circumstances of everyone who was incarcerated for homicide and eligible for work release.
If we have an attitude of retaliation, and it's too rife in this country where we have this attitude, oh, I'm not satisfied with the sentence the person got, I should get something, I should upgrade it somehow. I hear this person charged with this, we need to take the law into our own hands, which is what drives crime, which is what is driving this tit-for-tat murder. Then, of course, we have to be mindful of the safety of the inmates. And as these things can happen in public places, the safety of persons who may be around when bad actors come to carry out these actions. And so the inmates that were on the scheme for homicides, manslaughter or murder, that was suspended while there's an assessment of the safety surrounding that.
As for the threat of employee reluctance, Minister Munro notes that if a business owner were to become hesitant to employ persons either on the entrepreneurial or newly released, then that would only fuel the already staggering recidivism rate of repeat offenders in the country. As he says, desperation can encourage the unthinkable. You're watching JCN News. Coming up, the latest on Haitian migrants' repatriation. Rubis donates $10,000 to Brief, and a nation remembers patriots of the HMBS. Stay with us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Silhouette Boutique Collection.